But the real action is not just in these drugs. The real action, as we all know, is in the biologics. That's where some of these drugs are kind of long in the tooth and weren't facing any competition, and prices were not really dropping. But now that the biosimilar boom is upon us, things have totally changed. In fact, most of the people who are still writing articles about how biosimilars don't save money are using data based on 2018 and 2019, which is basically irrelevant. Again, another pet peeve of mine, but what can I do? There's only so many hours in a day I can spend arguing with people on Twitter. Not a productive use of my time, I will tell you. But the biosimilar boom is upon us, and it's primarily been focused on the medical benefit side. And just to give you an example, this is another great report that I actually look at a lot. It's linked down below. AmerisourceBergen does a great pipeline report on every couple months on what drugs have been approved and what drugs are in the pipeline. It's a very good report. Link there. And if you look at some of these products, I've counted the reference product as an approved product, and you'll see that for many of these products, there's already substantial competition, which is that blue bar. There's a number of products that are already competing with each other, and at the same time, there's even more in the pipeline. And as a result, we've seen dramatic decreases in biosimilar prices and some big shifts in market share. And just look at the three oncology drugs on there, Genentech portfolio, really. And the biosimilar market share is now 70 to 80%. We've actually had widespread adoption. It started pretty slow, but it ramped really fast, primarily because the biosimilars came in and said, we are going to cut price to get share. They didn't come in with low list prices. They came in with list prices that were, maybe 15% lower than the innovator product, but they immediately started rebating to commercial payers and offering rebates and discounts into the channel so that both wholesalers and providers would start adopting these products and pushing them through. And that's what's happened. And so we've had kind of this virtuous adoption rate, which has been, and starting to show up. It's starting to show up in the Medicare data, but the Medicare data is so lagged that, it's hard to see yet. Like MedPAC, which publishes a report that I look forward to every July, the data book. I'm sure you all have already read it. It's about 400 pages of wonky goodness. I tweeted it out a couple days ago. As soon as it came out, I look for it every year. And the data they have is only through 2020. But even as of 2020, just for these four drugs, they had already saved 10% of Part B spending. Compared to the pre-biosimilar phase. And most of the price increases happened during 2019, 2020, and into 21. And Medicare Part B, of course, is paying based on a lagged measure of price. So, when we look at the data for this year and even into next year, you're going to start seeing enormous savings in Part B. So there needs another year or two of JAMA articles saying we're not saving any money from biosimilars, but the reality is totally different. Now, on the pharmacy benefit side, it's been a little bit trickier. We haven't seen these products launch. And I'll just give you four of the biggest products that are in the pipeline, Enbrel, Humira, Stelara, Xolair, that all have substantial number of competitors that are either approved or in the pipeline to be approved. Some of them are starting to have official designated interchangeability. But, here's a fun fact. Half of the inflammatory drug category is going to be facing biosimilar competition within 2 years. So that whole category, which has historically been one of the highest spend categories, is about to face enormous biosimilar competition. But who are we kidding? What you really want to do is talk about Humira, right? So we all know what's happening next year. We're going to see enormous competition. We see the first one coming out in the first part of the year, another 4 drugs coming in the middle of the year, another 2 toward the back half of the year, and a bunch of others in the pipeline. So what does this mean? Well, of course, prediction is very difficult, especially about the future. But we can maybe get some ideas by looking at the one example we have so far of a biosimilar in the pharmacy benefit. And that's the little category of insulin. Now, I wrote about this. The link is going to be in here. But just to remind everyone, in this category, the category leader for long-acting insulin has long been Lantus. And they had a follow-on product, Toujeo. And in 2015 or 2016, Lilly launched a follow-on biologic, what we'd now call a biosimilar, but for technical reasons, it's technically not. But let's call it a biosimilar for our purposes, at a slight discount to wholesale acquisition cost, list price, but began to try to penetrate the market. And then, last year, Viatris got approval for an interchangeable version of Lantus. And what was notable, to me at least, is they launched it in two different versions. They launched a version that's branded as Semglee, which is a high-list version of the product. In other words, the list price is only 5% less than the list price of Lantus, and probably significant discounts. They also launched a low list price version that was unbranded, also interchangeable. So the same product, but one has a high list price. The unbranded product had a list price that was 65% below the list price of Lantus. Now you might think, well, shouldn't the system want the low price? But no, you've read drug channels. You know about the gross net bubble. You know that's not the way it works. And as I pointed out, Express Scripts, for example,